What's good, YouTube? Your boy AD. I'm back again with another video, man. My last video, I had my settings, my controller settings, graphic settings, all towards the end. This one right here is gonna be straight into the settings. It's gonna be controller, graphics, audio, all that good stuff, man. Be sure to go follow me on Twitch, man. I live stream every night on Twitch, twitch.tv/AyeDeon. Get that app, all that good stuff. Come follow, sub, whatever it is you gotta do, man. Come hang out with the crew. Let's get right into it, man. All right, so first thing I'm gonna bring to y'all is my controller settings. Now, I am using a specific controller. It's the MWIII G7 SE. Now, this one has two back buttons back here, so you can wrap them however you choose to. You would get the MWIII Nexus app. I will show y'all how that looks after we kind of go through these settings and how I have them on there, which will in turn tell you why I have them, the settings in the game, how I have them. So first thing we're gonna do, button layout, how I have it switched to tactical. So just make sure my B is on melee and my chain stand, slide, and dive is gonna be my right stick. I feel it's a lot easier to control. I'm not accidentally like pushing my right stick too hard where I start meleeing and melee panicking. So I wanted to make sure that I got that taken care of first. I didn't do any of these. I have my controller vibration off. My dead zone inputs. This is where things are changed, and it's also gonna be based on how I have my MWIII. So I'll go over that with you guys too. So how I have mine right now is 786 for left stick min and max. My right stick min and max is the same exact thing. My left triggers are also down to zeros. So this makes it so with these, they're a lot more snappier. They're gonna react a lot quicker. There's no delay in between. It goes right to the point. Aiming wise, I've kind of messed with this a little bit. I was doing 5.5, I did 6.6 for a little bit. Now I've kind of adjusted it to do 4.5. With this 4.5, you do see this here, but that's because I have it. It's blanked out because I have custom sensitivity settings. So we'll go over that too here in just a second. Sensitivity multiplier didn't change. None of that's changed. Aim response curve type is dynamic. It's the best one to go about how you're playing the game. Some people are using linear now because it makes it a lot more quicker in how you're doing it. There's no like speed up or slow downs at any point in time, but I feel dynamic is best based on the aim assist that we are using currently, which as we scroll down, custom sensitivity per zoom. Only thing I changed was to 0.95 here. Based on the guns you have, if you built it right with the lower recoils, even if it's high recoils, you're able to control it just a tad bit better. And that's all I really need. If I can control it just a little bit better, I'm going to be quick enough to do what I need to do. And because of the horizontal sensitivity, 4 is not as slow as you think. Now, if you want to go to 5, you can definitely go to 5. It's not going to do anything bad. If I would say if I went to 5, I'd probably drop the sensitivity down to 0.90 instead of 0.95. So I may try that as well. Let you guys know what I think of that. But like I said, it's only a 0.95 on custom sensitivity. Aim assist, of course, on. Aim assist type Black Ops is the best one. It's the most stickiest. It's the way to kind of get things going. You're going to lock on, and when you're locked on, you're locked in. Keep that in mind. All this other stuff, leave it alone. Gameplay wise, automatic sprint, auto attack sprint. Keep moving, keep going with your slide cancels and stuff like that. Leave that off. Single tap sprint, you can just leave it off because it's already on auto attack sprint anyways. Grounded mantle off. Automatic airborne mantle, leave it at the partial. Ground mantle hang off. This right here is to make sure that you're getting the best possible ways to just get straight into your slide cancel. So you would leave the slide dive behavior on slide only. You can keep sliding. You don't have to worry about that dive animation at all when you're doing this. This makes it so it feels as though you're actually sliding like the old MW 2019 when we were playing and doing all that good stuff. Plunging underwater, leave it at the free. Just make it so you look down, you look up. This was also what Shotzi was doing. If you guys look back in the older videos of MW2, he was using this. He was just jumping out of the water, like flying out and everything and getting kills. This is exactly what he was using. Friend door badge on, mantle only for ledge climb behavior. The only thing here that I changed, of course, weapon mount is just to hit the melee button while you're ADSing if you're near a ledge. Leave that to medium. Tactical stance activation, I turned it off. I've got my interstellar now. I don't care about doing all the extra stuff now. I got what I needed. Tactical stance to me, I'm not a big fan of it unless I'm sliding. That's the only time it's going to pop up now. So I cut it off. You can leave this on if you're doing like camo challenges or if you personally like it. To me personally, I'm not a big fan of it. I have this on tap to reload because I mainly play multiplayer. If I need to pick up something or anything like that, then I would worry about doing that. Until then, tap to reload. You can also do prioritize interact if you would like to do that, or prioritize reload. So that way, if you're ever doing anything, like if you're tapping, you can do your reloads that way. And if you're doing anything else, if your gun's already full, then you would be able to do the tap with interacting in anything, picking anything up, stuff of that nature. All the rest of this here is all still the same. Haven't adjusted anything here, pinwheels and all that. Now, I'm gonna go audio first and then we'll go graphics. So audio wise, mine is set to PC speaker. Now this is because I'm using Astro 850s. I also have the digital output linked into my base station for it as well. So I have the Dolby Atmos added into this. I also have the Dolby setting that's on the headphones itself. This helps with that. Is why this is set to Astro 850 gain. Biggest thing is also making sure that you go into your settings, which I'm going to show you guys real quick. As you're going to see on my screen right now, I have the wavelength microphone. This is where all my sounds are typically going through. On wave 3, how I'm talking right now, line is where the Astro headphones are going into my Elgato, into the secondary PC that we have, music, all that good stuff, voice chat, and all that goods. So we're going to go in here, sound settings. This is also for Windows 11, more sound settings. And as you do this, we're going to go in here. The first thing you're going to see is make sure your default device is your headset, whatever the headset may be. Make sure it's your headset, and then we're going to go to properties. Once you do that, go to enhancements. Make sure your loudness equalization is checked and you apply that. That's going to make sure that all your sounds are balancing out the proper way. You're going to hear footsteps a lot louder. The gunshots are going to be reduced just a bit, just to more so push out everything you need to push out. Now, the biggest thing I'm going to tell you guys is I also use the Dolby Atmos settings as well as the Astro settings. So with the Astro settings in the command center, I'm going to show you guys what this is real quick. Probably going to have to take this off. Nope, not going to have to at all. So this is what I use personally for my Astro 850s. This is something I found on YouTube as well. So hopefully this helps you guys. I've noticed with this one, it's actually very clear, very crisp. The bass is there when it needs to be to hear the footsteps. It kind of balances out the sounds just enough for me to make sure I'm good and ready to go here. Make sure to pause it if you need to copy this. Here you go. All right, next thing I'm going to show you guys is the Dolby Atmos. It is a subscription base. Luckily, I still have a subscription on here right now. I didn't pay for it. I had a code that came with the headphones and other headphones that I've had as well. I'm gonna go into settings, just turn this on to performance mode. If you want to do custom settings, recommend checking out some other videos. I've done a couple of trials and errors with them. Haven't really figured out because they go based off like specific like numbers and stuff. I don't know and are unsure if the numbers are the correct ones, like 3, 4 or 4, 3, 2. It's just unbalanced for me, so I just leave it on game. Put it on performance mode. It prioritizes positional accuracy for competitive gaming. Just make sure you can hear where everything's coming from, footsteps, this, that, and third. So that's how I went about doing mine. Now, I'll also point out with PC speaker, this makes things a lot louder. So you have to keep that in mind too if you're using this. I dropped my master volume down to 88 because of how much louder it gets. You can adjust it. I also don't want my sounds peaking in my ear and just going crazy. So there's a reason for that. Gameplay music volume 0, dialogue 30, so you can still hear a little bits of call outs, the audio announcers and stuff like that. Effects volume, leave that to 100. That includes gunshots, footsteps, everything you need to hear, reloads, all that good stuff. Voice chat volume, however you want to hear people talking. That's always a personal preference as well. Cinematic 0, war track 0. Everything here is also personal preference. If you want your voice chats on, game voice channel, this is up to you. However you want to have it set. Proximity chats is only going to go for when you're going to play Warzone, things of that nature. And this voice chat output, I could have done whether it's the main Astro voice chat in here, or because I use the wavelength, I have the wavelength voice chat, so it goes through that one program. This on open mic. Again, personal preference to make sure that you're heard or not heard, whatever you prefer to do. Microphone input is the microphone that's on the headset as well. You can always test it if you need to test it. Microphone levels, all that good stuff. Subtitles off, run audio off. Reduce tinnitus sound. You can have that on so it reduces the sounds and the extra like eeriness and weird vibrational sounds that come through with like flashbangs, concussions, things of that nature. All the rest of the stuff you can leave off. Hit marker sounds, personal preference. I leave it on what we have now with Modern Warfare. That's how my audio settings are. Now, for the big piece, graphics. Full screen exclusive is the best way to go about it. That's the only way you're going to be able to get the best performance with your frames, all that good stuff. The only time you would change it is like full screen borderless, where if you're running a one PC setup. Now, again, I'm running 2, so I kind of get away with things a little bit better. But if you are running on one, full screen borders is the way to go. And then you would reduce other settings, which I'll show you guys here as well. Make sure that your display adapter is your graphics card. Shouldn't have to even say that. Screen refresh rate is the highest that your monitor is going to be able to be capable of. Make sure it's set at the highest. You can put it on auto, but I'm just more focused on making it exactly what it is. Brightness, I have on 55. This makes it so I can still see things clear. If you want to drop it, you can. I personally feel like 55 is the way to go for this one in particular. Video reflex low latency, I'll have it on. In some cases, some PCs can do on plus boost to give a better boost, but it's also just based on how your PC performs. So keep an eye on that, and then you can kind of determine what you decide is the best way to go about doing it. VSync off, leave that shit off. Override 100 to cap the VSync. Just leave the shit off. I don't even know why that was even on for mine anyway, so leave that off. Custom frame rate limit. I put mine in custom and just set it to 200 because of course, my monitor only goes to 165. There's no point in me having it go above and beyond when it doesn't need to. I hit usually anywhere between about 145 to about 190 in my FPS settings. So when I'm in game, that's where I'm typically at. Menu custom frame limit, leave it on 120 for my monitor, and let's put this on 30 so it doesn't exceed anything it doesn't need to when I'm not in the game itself. Now for quality, go ahead and apply that. We got custom. Mine is only 1920 1080 monitors, so leave this at 100. You don't need to put it any higher or lower unless you have any type of issues with this, again, your single PC setup. Then you would probably drop this if you needed to, but you wouldn't have to based on the settings I'm going to give you anyway, so that should help with your frames. Dynamic resolution, leave that off. Upscaling and sharpening. Fidelity FS cast gives you the clearest possible thing because of the cast strength, which is just sharpening. So you would sharpen with this tool in particular. This makes it so things are a lot more crisp. You can see things a lot clearer. There's none of that like fading out, blurry vision as you get further distances. So that's a good thing for that. If you do like an NVIDIA DLSS or an AMD FSR 1.0, you're going to notice there is those instances of blur. What I would say is if you did like DLSS, you have the ability to do sharpness, so it kind of balances it out. And you can either do quality or performance based on however your PC is set up. Performance, of course, is going to give you a better performance, but the quality of the gameplay is going to drop. And you're looking at about a 720, 780 type of vision quality-wise, whereas quality is a definite either 720 or 810, and you're going to get that quality boost as well as you can change the sharpness to make that look just as crisp as you possibly can. But me personally, if I was to pick and choose, I like AMD FSR 1.0. I feel like this is the best one. It just doesn't have the sharpness capabilities. This does give you, to me, the best framework that you'll get based on what you have. But if you want the sharpness, DLSS, Fidelity FS cast is definitely the way for me and how I like going about this whenever I'm playing Call of Duty. This is something new here. This is only for those 40 series RTX cards. Leave it alone for now. I don't know much about it. I'll leave it on off. That's where we're going to stay because I'm only on a 3070. VRAM scale target. I have this at 90, so it gives the most capability out of the RAM that I have internally on PC. More VRAM, as it says, helps performance, but may cause hitching if not enough is left over for other applications to run. So if you need to turn this down, you can turn it down like a 70 or 80, and you'll still be able to run it perfectly fine. This allows other things in the background to keep working. When experiencing hitches, consider closing other unused applications or lower this setting's target. Lowering this setting may cause visual issues such as texture loading. So you have to keep that in mind too. Everything's a give and take. Take that with a grain of salt. Variable rate shading, leave that off. Activate a technique that improves performance at low visual cost by controlling where additional quality is needed in the image. I feel like that just uses it a little bit too much. So that's also a personal preference type of thing as well. Take it with a grain of salt. I'm not too familiar with it. I haven't used it. I just leave it off. This one's just off anyways. I think you need a 40 series for it to even be featured. Yeah, it requires a RTX 40 series graphics card. So if you have that, hey, by all means, frame generation boosts frame rates by using AI to render additional frames. Do your thing. I ain't it. Now, as we go to textures, this is where we're going to worry about more so of the frames. My texture resolution is on low. You can go very low if you're on a lower end model or system or graphics card. I have mine on low. Still gives me pretty decent quality because of the Fidelity FX cast sharpness, which I have at 90. So it helps kind of clear everything up, sharpens those edges instead of softening. Texture filter Texture filter anisotropic. This is like surface qualities and stuff like that. I have it on normal. If you notice, there isn't any change on the VRAM usage here. So it's personal preference, but I leave it at normal to low because it kind of saves you a little bit of percentages to go towards your FPS. Depth of field, always leave that crap off. To me, that just messes everything up. You have this blurred vision underneath and over to the side of you. So in case somebody's coming out of your peripherals, you probably would never see it because you'll just think it's something just kind of floating in the wind. So leave that off. Detail quality level, I have mine at normal. You can turn this to low if you want. As you notice, when it goes high, you're going up in your target rate. I went up 0.13 on this one here. So I like to leave it down to normal or low. Personal preference as well, but I wanted my game to at least look a little decent while also giving me frames. So personal preference too. Particle resolution, as you see, it does have an effect on your GPU and your RAM, more so your GPU. This is like flashbangs, smokes, anything that kind of shoots up with like fire and stuff like that. Thermites, that's mainly what this is gonna be for. If you notice, it only goes up just a tad bit, but I leave it to normal, kind of save me a little bit. And you can also drop this down to low or very low, and it'll save you a little bit more on your frames as well. Bullet impacts, I just leave this on because I was focusing on like my recoil instances with my guns and stuff. So there's a vertical or horizontal recoil. I can kind of see where it looks like so I can control my guns better. So I leave it on. Persistent effects, you can turn it off. Not really a big deal. Those visual effects when explosions and deflagrations, whatever that word is, are used near surfaces. You can turn this off. It'll save you a little bit as well. Personal preference. Shader quality. As you can see, this is where the differentiating of like sunlights and stuff like that. Select the quality of lighting treatment applied on some surfaces has a slight impact on the colorization of these surfaces. So this also can in turn look onto your gun as well with the shader quality. So certain gun colors may take a hit. So you have an option here where you can either put it to low and normal are about the same, but low is going to give you better FPS percentage frames back on that too, so you can save a little bit of performance. I may try out high just to see kind of how it looks, but you can just do medium or low, save you a little bit on your FPS. On-demand texture streaming, always leave that off. You don't never need to have this on at any point in time. This just takes up more space, uses more power, uses everything that you don't need it to use. It says CPU is low, but it's going to take a lot more when it comes down to your like this local texture streaming quality as well, and you're gonna leave that low. All that plays a part in this saves on your PC, which takes up more storage space. You want to have the least amount of storage space possible because there's nothing extra that's running in the background that's taking away from your capability and performance in playing. Shadow quality, very low. Don't really need it anything. It's gonna constantly go up every time. Leave that to very low, save you some time on that. Screen space shadows, you leave that off. That's just shadows in your gun. Not really a necessity unless you just want something that just looks good. Ambient occlusion, you can actually turn this off. This will save you a little bit as well. As you see, mine's on both. If I turn it off, it'll save me a little bit. I like having kind of like that 3D effect. And so it says select the range in which the ambient occlusion adds soft shadows intersecting with each other, creating depth. So it's just depth to like objects that are just there. So if you notice, it kind of looks like this is kind of just like floating on top of things. This one looks like it's kind of synced in. So that's what it's supposed to be for. I like it, personal preference, but you can turn this off, save you a little bit more as well. Screen space reflections. This is like reflections off of like water, cars, stuff of that nature. I like a little bit of it, so I'll just leave it at normal. You can turn this off as well, save you a little bit. Static reflection quality. It does take up VRAM usage. I may turn this to low. It's not a necessity, but this is more so as you see, like set the quality level of static reflection images. So you can always like adjust this to where this looks a little bit more bland, where you can't really see the reflections like you can see into this mirror here. So personal preference, you can turn it off, save you a little bit as well. Tessellation, leave that off. This saves you some on the back end for your FPS usages. As you see here, it's like kind of synced in a little bit more, while the ground also looks a little bit more raised up right here. This one looks like it's more flat, so this gives you more depth as far as like just things that are on the ground that are sticking out. Gives you more quality based on that. Volumetric quality, I put this to low. This saves you a lot on your FPS as well, so you get a little bit more of a buff. It's not a big thing. As you see, you're either gonna get like shadows that come in, like sunlights and rays and stuff like that, fog. Whereas this one, there's literally none here, so it gives you more of a visual quality aspect that's a lot more recommended and necessary. If for physics quality, just leave that to low. Nobody cares about the water at that point. Weather grid volumes, you can turn this off if you want completely. This has like really no major effects. Quality level of weather effects applied to dynamic objects. So it's like water bouncing off of you if it lands on your jackets or your players in general. That's what that's for. I just leave it to low. You can turn it off if you would like. And then put this to wave wetness. Display wet effect on surfaces that come in contact with water. So it kind of shows you what it looks like. You can turn this off. It saves you a little bit as well. Again, personal preference, but that's how I have mine set up. Main part of everything as well, besides the graphics, is the field of view. I have mine at 120 and affected. I was doing 120 independent when I was doing my challenges for my guns for Interstellar camo. I was doing that briefly playing hardcore so I could see things a little bit more clear. I put this back down to affected. This keeps it so that way your field of view when you're ADSing is the same as your main field of view. If you put this to independent, it drops down to about an 80 FOV. So everything's a lot more zoomed in. You can't see anything around you. That's why I just went back to affected. It was cool, but I'd rather keep it the way I had it. Weapon field of view I have to wide. This kind of sets everything else out a little bit more. As you'll notice here, everything's real close based on the standard. When you set it to wide, you're going to see a little bit more off to your sides, a little bit more in front of you because your weapon is kind of zoomed out just a little bit better. Weapon looks smaller, but everything else around you is more visible. Third person, if you play third person, that's personal preference. Vehicle field of view, I have it at wide as well, so everything kind of is spaced out a little bit more. These main options here, world motion blur and weapon motion blur. Turn that shit off. It's not even necessary. It just blurs everything out. You get dizzy, you get sick. It's just motion sickness to hell. Film grain 0, so there's none of that extra filmy type of grain that's put into the game itself, so everything looks a little bit more clear and crisp. First person camera movement and third person, I have this on the least amount possible, so that way your camera isn't shaking a whole lot whenever like things are exploding, things of that nature, so you can kind of keep focus on everything you have going on in front of you. And all this stuff is also person preference, spectator camera, third person ADS transition, inverted flashbang. So you have two different options here where you can leave it off, so anytime you get by a flashbang, it's still that white screen that we all know and hate. And then you have it to where you can change it to a dark screen, so your screen goes black. Then you're really blind, and by the time you come back, you're still in the black screen and you can't see anything. So personal preference as well. If you want to get blinded by the light, you got that. If you want to get blinded in the darkness, there you go. One more thing I will say, interface. I have changed a couple things here. So color customization. I have my team is purple, so I can kind of see them a little bit better, and then I have my enemy at red. I just changed the style of red. So this style of red is a little bit brighter while still having that darker punch of red to it, so that way I can see the enemies a lot clearer. You can also reverse this, where you can do your team at some other color. You may be able to do blue like they already have, and you can put the enemy to purple. Purple and red is a lot easier to see on this game and on these maps. So I prefer just doing it whichever one I prefer to do at that time. Personal preference, neutral. I have white. My contested points are going to be yellow. Color filters, filter 2. And then my color filter target is for both. This is so I can make sure that all the colors are as darkened up as I can make it in the world. And then as far as the interface colors, they'll be as solid as you can see. As I drop it, this red turns more of an orange when I crank it back up, back to red. So keep that in mind whenever you're playing too, so you can actually see those enemies a lot better. And then the last couple things, HUD bounds. I have this dropped in with these HUD bounds is to make sure that the map would be right here instead of all the way up here at this top corner. They'd be able to kind of see everything. You don't have to look up and just turn up and look up every time to like try to see what the map looks like. This also keeps everything as far as like the weapon stuff down here, any type of kill streaks that you may have gotten. Everything's closer on your screen. Now the only issue I do have with it is because of this, like the pop-ups like Interstellar and all that stuff, it's like dead smack in the middle of the screen. So take that with a grain of salt too. You have to make sure that you're willing to deal with these pop-ups as much as possible, because you know they pop up quite often. And then minimap shape square. please change the square. As you see, you're not really getting much out of this. Everything's kind of cut off, getting more of a wide range here, so you can see more on your mini map when everybody's shooting. Horizontal compass I have on. You can turn it off if you want, but this also helps for like callouts and stuff. You can kind of see where everybody's going to be at, where they're near, where you're headed, and this will pop up the name of the location that you're at. Crosshairs, I leave it to static. So this, it doesn't make it so the crosshairs are moving so much whenever you're shooting and stuff. They kind of stay right with you, directly in front of you. They're never going to move. And then I also have, of course, crosshair dot is on, and I have the center dot on. So this makes it so, as you can see here, this dot is always going to be on your screen. It's always going to be centered in the middle of your screen. And I just set it to the largest. So it's a bigger dot here. I may drop it down to just larger, so that way it's not too big, so I can kind of get those shots off better as we get a playlist update. All right. This just kind of throw me off completely, thanks. And with that center dot, it makes it, like I said, it's easier to center in your screen, kind of work on your centering ability. Hit marker visuals I have on, so as you can see, this is what it pops up. Damage-based hit markers, based on where you're hitting them at, will determine a lot. So if you're hitting them in the head, you're going to get stuff like that. If it's equipment hits, kill streak hits, that's what they're going to pop up. In-game chat, all that good stuff still there. Vehicle hit prompts. Telemetry, this is just FPS counter, server latency, packet loss, if you want anything else, VRAM usage, clock, any of that other good stuff is there and available to you to use. And everything else, hide setting details. This is all, again, personal preferences as well. If you want to have them on or off, tool tips. Of course, skip introduction movie. I don't need to see any intros whenever I'm starting the game up. Be wary sometimes when the game does update, that stuff will turn off and they'll still play this long ass intro whenever there's a new season. So keep that in mind whenever you're going through your settings, that there's a good possibility you still may have to watch some type of intro by the time you start playing the game. I told you I was going to tell you about the GameSir Nexus. I was going to tell y'all about the app for GameSir. So you can get my last bit of controller information here. As you guys can see, I have like a couple different things. I have, of course, there's default. I have a 2K profile, which I'm probably gonna get rid of. And I have two of these. I have one for my Xbox when I'm playing 2K and other games on my Xbox, and then I have this one on my PC, which allows me to play Call of Duty. So they did an update, and within this update, it made it to where you can get 1,000 hertz pull rate. Now with that, you can't use the headphone jack that is in this controller, but they also had to recall this update. Now, for some reason, I still have it. Don't know why. There's some people that still have it, and there's others that don't. There's some issue with the controller and the framework for it and the firmware, so they had to recall it. But I still have it. So here's my settings. This gives you a 1 millisecond response time on this controller. So it's the fastest Xbox controller you can get. Makes things quick, simple. It is wired controller, so you have to keep that in mind too. But that's better for response time anyways. So for this COD profile, I just have my mapping set to just A and B from my back paddle buttons back here. That's all it's for. For my sticks, I have done a couple of different things with this. Now you have a couple of different options where you can turn this to raw, or you can, leave it off. Raw mode disables the outer radio dead zone, offering higher precision and speed in some games. So if you notice, this goes from a full circle, kind of like an outrange, a little bit more to where it can do what it needs to do. Now you'll notice I have like a little bit of drift here. It's because I also have it turned off. With that raw setting, that allows it to be turned off. Plus, I also have my initial stick range to 0, which is why I have in game, I have it set to 7 and 7. That allows me to have those dead zones be specific for that game. In game, that's how I like to do mine. Now, if I'm playing anything else, I can change those dead zones on those games and just kind of leave this at raw functionality. Put these down to 0. And then my max on here is 93 apiece. Just make sure I don't have to go too above and beyond whenever I'm playing those games. And I can adjust in game how I want my sticks and stuff and dead zones to be anyways. Same thing with my triggers. I just put these down as low as I can. You can actually put these to hair trigger. What I've noticed with the hair trigger, sometimes they kind of cut out, which I don't want them to do. Of course, now it's not doing it anyways because I also have this changed. Now, as you notice, there's a buildup. If I go slow, there's a buildup. But because I have it off anyways, as soon as I push down, I'm there. Don't have to push down much. Same thing with the hair trigger. What it was doing before, like if I don't hold it enough, it'll go back to 0. So as you noticed, sometimes it kind of go in and out, and I don't want it to do that. So I just cut the hair triggers off, put this down to 0 and 20. This makes it so both Triggers are still responsive, as well as in the game. As y'all notice, I have it at 0-0. So my triggers are going to be hella responsive. With these controllers, they have Hall effect triggers and Hall effect sticks. So with the sticks, they don't drift that easily at all. It's all like kind of like a magnetic type of thing inside of the sticks itself. So that way, when you're going to move stuff around, they don't drift anywhere near as easy or drift at all. I think it's up to 5 million, I think, presses and clicks for the triggers and the sticks. So keep that in mind. That's why I have two. If I had to get another one, I would get another one of these. It's only 45 to 50 bucks on Amazon and on their website. Amazon's your best bet. If you can get it through Amazon. Use your Amazon Prime, all that good stuff, man. It is the right way to go. And then I just have all my vibrations off. I don't need vibration at all. It's not necessary for me and how I play. And that's just how I go about it. So if y'all enjoyed this video, man, please make sure to like up the video. Make sure to go follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/AyeDeon, where we live stream every night. Make sure to subscribe, share with a friend, let them know what we got going on. And I'll catch you in the next video, man. Peace.